Hey, what's going on, everybody? It is Justin from the Edison Club, and I am your host tonight. I wanted to do something this week a little bit more different than our typical week to week podcast. And I wanted to have a one on one conversation with each and every one of you. And tonight's topic is about Yu Gi Oh's impact on our life, and more so, mine specifically. Tonight's going to be a story time. So, if you guys want to grab a cup of coffee, grab you a snack or something like that, and sit down for a few minutes and just join me on this discussion. Um, I've been playing the card game for 23 years now, ever since its inception with the starter decks, the Yugi and the Kaiba. I remember picking my cards up at a gas station. Actually, it's funny because gas stations used to sell cards and whatnot and things like that, which is pretty cool. Um, but growing up as a kid, I didn't have my parents. My father left when I was very young. I lived with my grandmother and grandfather, and they were my parents per se, and they both did a wonderful job raising me. And my grandmother has passed, and we'll touch upon that here in a little bit. Um, but being raised by grandparents, your childhood, the dynamic's a little bit different than kids who are raised by their mother and father, per se, because you're being raised by older people. So um, they're not like caught up with like what's cool, what's new, and things like that. But they were very supportive of my addiction to the card game. So my grandmother and grandfather would buy me cards, and we grew up on a fixed income. So they only got paid once a month. That's what that means. I'm not sure if people, are familiar with that. I'm sure some people are that are watching. Um, so the first of the month, we would make our trip to Walmart and things like that. And my grandmother would always get me some cards. And I remember specifically, there was this one instance where I really wanted this Dark Magician Girl tin, and I think it was like $20 at the time, maybe 15, because that was like 23 years ago. I think the Dark Magician Girl was like 21 years ago, but anyways, that's irrelevant. I remember my grandmother and grandfather getting that for me, and I still actually have the card in my room in there, my little man cave. Um, but that I've held on to that for so many years because of that. And maybe it doesn't sound like it's much, but knowing that my grandparents were on a fixed income, the fact that they got that for me with what little money they had, it meant everything to me. And that's one card that I've never traded, never gotten rid of or anything. So, uh, but I want to touch upon the moments in my life where Yu-Gi-Oh! I've had to lean on Yu-Gi-Oh! To get through these difficult times. Um, Back when I was in middle school in eighth grade, my stepfather had passed away. And at this point, I had moved back in with my mother. We had a pretty good relationship, and she got with my stepfather, and he was a great person, and he passed away. And it was very difficult for me watching this firsthand because he had a heart attack in the yard. And, you know, I've been blaming myself for this for many years. I've come to accept it now. We got into an argument, and during the argument, he had a heart attack. And it's difficult for me to talk about this to some people, but I know that the community that watches these videos is a very receptive community. I'm sorry, and I wanted to share that with you guys, but um, it was difficult for me because I was involved and we had an argument and that happened, and for the longest time I blamed myself for it. And uh, kids are just not nice to each other, and the neighbor across the road happened to be going to the same school as me, and had told everybody, Justin did this, Justin did that, and that's very difficult for a 13-year-old to hear, a 14-year-old to hear, and and I remember at the time Yu-Gi-Oh! GX was airing on TV, and I remember that was the only thing that could take my mind off of what was going on in the real world. Um, Fast forward a few months, my mother and I and my brother, we move in with my stepfather's relatives. We lived with them for a while, and it was a very different living situation because I really didn't know these people all too well. But I remember that there was a kid that lived in the house above us, and he was a huge Yu-Gi-Oh fan. And I remember we would just hang out together. And I don't remember his name. I wish I did. I think it was Joseph. Actually, I think it was Joseph. But we used to hang out together, and we'd watch Yu-Gi-Oh, play cards, and those moments were like the light, in the darkness, that kept my mind off that kind of stuff. Um, that was the first real moment that I could remember ever like leaning into Yu-Gi-Oh, the card game and the show and all that to just sort of keep moving forward. And then my grandmother passed away in 2012, the woman who raised me, and that was a very difficult time for me. And I remember I had just gotten into the competitive scene in 2011. And went to a few regionals and things like that. Nothing spectacular, but to me that was competitive. And I remember leaning on the card game, leaning on my friends, and sort of just keeping my mind, helping keep my mind off that kind of stuff. And once again, finding that light in the tunnel. And of course, like breakups and things like that. Of course, through school and things like that, you got your friends. So that's some more examples too. Um, but more recently, and I'm 33, so more recently though, I had been let go from my job um, back in the middle of March. Um, and I was put on what they call admin leave, which means I'm technically not let go, but I'm not making any money, right? And that's a whole separate story, but I guess to put it in a short sense, like their HR didn't do their part to sort of help me out, and I can point in the blame game all day long, right? But that's not what I'm here for. But thankfully, a good friend of mine had came up with delivering as a means to make some money. So I've been able to do that, and actually it's actually pretty good money. So, but good news is I start a new job Monday, better than the one before. So that's great. But what I want to get from this is that the thing that has helped me get through this, outside of my kids and my wife, first and foremost, they have helped me more than anything. But also the friends that I met through Yu-Gi-Oh. The one who, Madison, who showed me, the delivering thing. And then, of course, the guys in the Edison Club, Mike, Ty, um, all those guys. Blake's a big one. Um, so all those guys in the chat encouraging me, giving me someone to lean on, and boosting my confidence and things like that, and just reiterating that everything's going to be okay. But playing the card game, whether it be online, whether it be in person, I still go to locals and things like that. And no, I didn't have to get rid of any of my cards or anything like that. So, once again, like, I've had to lean on the card game, and the franchise, but more importantly, the people that I've met through the card game. I think that's the important thing to get from this conversation, is the people that you meet in this card game are that's what will last. Um, the friends that you make, and I think that's my favorite part of this game, is the people that I've met over the years that I can call my best friends and my family. Um, but it's crazy to me after 23 years, the fact that I am still leaning on Yu-Gi-Oh as a coping mechanism to get through hard times. And I think that's something that a lot of us can relate to. Everybody has their ups and downs, and we're all human. We all make mistakes. We all, experience death and losses and hardships and things like that. But I think what we have in common is we have the card game Yu-Gi-Oh to lean on, the franchise, the friends that we make. Um, and no matter how dark it seems, or no matter how, dim the light is, um, it has just always been there. Um, and I think that's why it's so hard for me to, let go of it. And we all take breaks. We all say, "Oh, we're not playing for a while. This is, I'm getting out of it," kind of thing. But to me, I think it's more than just a card game. Um, but it's just a little rant I wanted to get out of the way tonight. In case anybody watching is, going through any kind of tough times or any kind of hardships. if you ever want to play a game, message me, message the channel, send us a message or an email, and I'm sure one of us will gladly hop on and help you get through it. So with that being said, I hope everybody has a great night. Thanks for listening to my rants, my conversation, whatever you want to call it, story time. But it's Justin from the Edison Club, signing out.